Manager at Instapage. In this series, we'll be taking a look at a few landing pages and talking about what they do well and what they could do better. With me for this conversation is Jake Ayers, a digital marketing expert, and Michelle Barnes, conversion rate optimization rockstar. Today, we'll be taking a look at Zola, a wedding registry company, and examining their landing page that is connected to their social media ads and digital marketing campaigns. So let's start at the top. Jake, would you tell me a little bit about your impressions of this landing page?
Absolutely. So the very first impression I get is that they have created a very powerful and very enticing hero or above the fold section right here. So just below the H1, which gives a brand sort of identity of being modern, of being sleek, of being more convenient than what you're probably already looking at. Right beneath that, they start to call out these very, very good value props that are essentially just transactional weights for the user almost entirely, right? You get zero fee cash funds, you get access to top brands, gift cards, experiences. You don't have to deal with annoying linkages to external sources like the whatever gift you're trying to look at, Delta or kitchen appliances, what have you, and you get free shipping and exchanges for whatever gift that you order, right? So you're getting a lot of value for the user almost immediately. And then the section right beneath the UVP section, we can see they're driving home all of that value again. It's very easy to register, which is super, super important for people that are planning a wedding. They already have so much to handle, to plan. So making it easy for them is super important. Making it a one-stop shop so they don't have to manage going to 50 different sites for all of their gifts. Again, very, very important and very, very sort of easing for the user. And they're driving home the zero fee cash funds on the right there as well. So you can see all the information that is in the top left section right there is replicated almost one-to-one in the UVP section as well.
Thank you, Jake. Michelle, what's your take on this landing page?
Yeah, I think it's a great entry point. One of the things I like is they have clarity on the page by having those calls to action. So they have one in the header, and then they have one in the hero section. So it's very clear to the visitor on what you want them to do for their next step. And then just as Jake said, so just like reiterating that they're really great at calling out the different unique selling propositions on here, and then kind of expanding on those just below. And that's all above the fold on the desktop device.
Excellent. Well, why don't we take a look a little further down the page? Michelle, I'd love to hear a little bit of your thoughts about these sections.
Yeah, so for the wedding gifts for over 900 brands, I think it's great that they're quantifying that for the visitor. I love that they're also featuring some major brands here in there so they can say like these are like well known. And then again, for each of these, even the section below where they're saying not quite sure to begin, they have a gentle nudge for the visitor. So in each section, I love how they don't just like leave the content there, but they're nudging them again towards taking the next step.
Absolutely. Jake, can you tell us a little bit about the kind of structure of these sections? I noticed that there's a carousel here. Could you tell me a little bit of your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so the carousel is a pretty powerful tool for putting a lot of content in a very little amount of real estate, right? So you're seeing at least 12 brands that most people probably are familiar with, like Delta, Cuisinart, et cetera, all right here in this section. So again, you're getting a lot of value for the user in a very little amount of space. And they're driving home the fact that you get access to almost 1,000 brands for whatever sort of gift you want. They're driving home, again, that value that was in the top of the page, now in the middle of the page. And they're even giving you more value that wasn't actually referenced in the fold itself by referencing the free wedding planning expert that you get right there as well.
Right on. Well, let's take a quick look at the rest of this page, and then we'll go back to the top and examine some ways that this could be improved. Michelle, what's your take on these lower sections?
Yeah, I think it's great. So like we saw just above there, they had a FAQ section. So that's great for the visitor to get more information, especially as they're approaching the bottom of the page. You know, that might be what they're looking for is additional information. And then just below that, they have some social proof, media mentions in there. And then my favorite part is that kind of summary or closing CTA, like always be closing. So should always be pushing them towards that final goal, which they do a great job here.
Jake, what do you think?
I would say structurally, there's a very clear sort of pattern that they've created here. So in the fold and in the topmost section of the page, it's very value oriented. Here's what you get when you use Zola. And then right beneath that, it's not necessarily what we would call a direct social proof section, but the section about 900 brands. And then they have Delta there, they have Crate and Barrel. Again, it's value followed by social proof and information. And then again, it's value followed by social proof and information. So the layout is replicated all the way through the page itself. And the social proof is done in sort of two different ways. Here are the brands and logos that you get access to, and here are the media mentions that have good things to say about us. So you get two differing aspects of trust and accessibility for the product.
Excellent. Well, let's take this moment to go back to the top of the page and look at this page in a new light and see what opportunities there are to improve. Jake, would you like to start us off?
Absolutely. So like we called out earlier, this section in general is very powerful and gives a lot of value to the user itself. And they have CTAs that are driving the user towards the next destination and the ultimate goal that Zola wants the user to accomplish here. However, I would like to call out the differences in the CTAs themselves. Though the two, those two being the one in the header there and the one in the actual hero section, though they're actually going to the same destination, they have different text within each of the buttons, right? We have build my registry and start your free registry. And right there, I think that those are sort of connotating different sentiments behind the CTAs. When you say start, that's a very momentary thing. Starting is, like that. You start or you don't. And then you have free in that CTA as well. So start your free registry. It's very momentary. It's very valuable for the user. It's free. It's immediate. It's quick. But then you look at build my registry up there. And though they're going to the same destination, the connotation and the sentiment of them is a little bit different. When you say something like build, that gives you a lot of ideas about the user putting in more effort. Like they're going to have to create and build something from the ground up here. So that's what I would probably call it on this section, is to change those texts or at least homogenize them to where they're saying the same thing and eliciting the same emotions to the user. Because I can't say this for sure, but I would guess that start your free registry probably has more clicks than build my registry, because just the text in there is giving more to the user than build my registry is.
Mm-hmm. And Michelle, how would you improve the top of the fold here on this landing page?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a few different things that I would recommend testing. The first one, starting with the headline. Your value proposition is one of the leading things that are going to encourage visitors to click. So it starts out with the wedding registry reinvented, and then just thinking about like, what does that mean to a visitor? Like they may not actually know what reinvented means. So doing something like a little bit more straightforward, like create your dream registry or the wedding registry made simple, something that's just going to like really add clarity and value to like what the visitor is doing might be useful in this position as well. Another thing I would look at doing is really kind of featuring that UI in the image a little bit more. So, it's kind of small and it has like it's overlaid on like a background that may not be doing anything for that. So I would test kind of removing that background image and just really like featuring the UI a little bit bigger, so the user can see what the experience would be like once they go in there. And then finally, I would test moving this 0 fee cash funds badge closer to the call to action button. So just looking at like theory of proximity, where you kind of relate things that are closer together, moving that closer to the button may add some like affirmation to like, oh yeah, it's 0 fee, 0% cash funds. Yeah, I want to go ahead and start my registry there. So I definitely recommend testing those elements in the hero.
Yeah, that image is a little bit difficult to parse with so much going on in such a small space. That's a really good note. Well, let's take a peek below the fold and see what could be improved here. Michelle, how would you improve this kind of carousel block experience?
Yeah, so kind of like in CRO world, we talk about, most important information is visible and then like least important information is hidden. So carousels kind of hide information. So I'd recommend testing this out in more of like a grid layout. where you can see more of the options all at once. That way they're not having to scroll through, you're not, creating an extra click for no reason. Test that out and see how that goes. If they do decide to keep it in this carousel form, I would recommend adding like indicators of like how many screens they have to scroll. I believe this one is like 3 official scrolls, but it doesn't indicate that like you've reached the end. It just kind of infinitely scrolls. And so the user, they're not observant, can just keep on clicking and clicking and clicking. And they might seem like good engagement to like somebody looking at a heat map, but then like not really have any action for the visitor. And then I think one thing we noticed was there was some color differences between each of the scrolls. So it wasn't like entirely clear what the differences were between the items where the colors would change, but we would just recommend making that consistent in there. Finally, one other recommendation is they talk about having like gifts, experiences, and cash funds. And so they do have an opportunity to break that out a little bit more here, where they could kind of break them into sections. Like these are the types of gifts we have. These are the types of cash funds. These are the types of experiences. That way it gives more information to the visitor to kind of segment that ahead of time.
Absolutely. Jake, what are your thoughts?
I think Michelle covered everything I would say about the carousel pretty well, but my next comment would be on the section just beneath that about the wedding expert. So not only do I think that this could be called out probably sooner in the page itself, this is a very unique sort of value proposition right here. You get your own wedding planning expert, and hiring a wedding planner is just another thing that people that are about to have a wedding need to do. So this is a very convenient thing. However, I have no context as to who that woman is or why she's there, right? She has no title, no name. So I don't really know what her purpose is. I don't know if she's there for a warm face. I don't know if she's actually the wedding planning expert. So again, something as simple as just putting her name there, her title, her relation to Zola itself, because that's going to explain her relation to you at that point, and just letting the user know why she's there and why the user is in this section as well would be a little bit more helpful and a little bit more valuable to them as well.
Yeah, it seems like a real missed opportunity to kind of humanize their service and bring it to life a little bit.
Yeah. I would add on to that I think not having this featured in the hero for the value propositions might be a missed opportunity as well, because there are like hundreds of wedding registries out there, but not all of them offer like expert guidance. So totally. I think adding this higher up as one of like their bullet points would kind of like push them, to differentiate them from the competition a little bit more.
Absolutely.
That could be a really cool test.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick glance at the FAQ and social goods social proof section lower on the page. Just a few thoughts. Anything that you'd shift about these sections?
I would probably not shift too much. Honestly, I think that some people might put the social proof a little bit higher, but we're getting a certain aspect of social proof in the 900 brand section, right? We have Delta, Cuisine Art, all those different things right there. So you're getting some aspect of social proof from that section. And this section right here comes off as frankly a little bit dated. You can see that the in style mention right there is from 6 years ago. And so that does make me question, where are the rest of these quotes from and how old are they? They just need, I would say, probably a refresh, but I think their location serves the overall layout well.
I agree with Jake on that one.
Right on. Well, before we move on to closing thoughts, I'd love to talk about a really crucial aspect of the landing page, which is the add to page journey. I know that this landing page originates at a specific ad, and I know, Jake, you had some thoughts about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can see Zola's Facebook ad library right here. And this placement is deploying across either Facebook or Instagram and all the other destinations that Facebook offers as well. But this is the ad that's actually going to the landing page that we just looked at. And my main comment around it is, one, it does this well, that it gives you a lot of value in the ad itself that is replicated on the page. We can see gifts, experiences, and fee-free cash funds. So those are all, again, replicated in the hero section on the landing page itself. My issue with this is that there's a lot more on the landing page than there is the ad. So the ad is essentially, it has all of the faith that it's going to get the user there. And so my recommendation would be to add a little bit more to this ad. You can put bullet points in ads too. You can add emojis. You can add a little more personality to the ad and a little bit more value, because the landing page has plenty of value and personality. But I don't think that the ad is doing as much of the lifting as the landing page itself is. So put a little bit more value in here, put a little bit more info, get those CTRs up and get more users to the landing page itself, which of course is going to mean a higher proportion of users actually completing a conversion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I'd love to get your closing thoughts on this landing page. Michelle, would you like to start us off?
Sure. So just taking a look, I mean, overall, I think the page has really good bones and a really good structure to start off with. You know, all best practices in the hero, having the value proposition, the benefits in there. I would just recommend kind of testing some different verbs, calling out the expert guidance in here, and just making a little bit more clear for the visitor on what the value proposition is of choosing Zola over other wedding registries.
Mm-hmm. And Jake?
Yeah, I would agree almost entirely. The structure, the bones of it all fit well with what I would want the best practices on my own landing pages to be. They just need to do those little nuance things, change the verbiage, change the emotion that the page is trying to elicit from the user, put maybe even a little bit more stuff above the fold to give it more value and more information to the user, especially not just for the desktop version, but this landing page, as you can see in the URL, is for all devices. So we have mobile and desktop traffic landing here. So the more you can put in the fold, especially for mobile users, the more they're going to scroll, the more they're going to click, the more they're going to convert. But overall, like I said, the page has a good layout. It just needs to make a few little tweaks to make this experience easier.
Right on. Well, thank you both for sharing your thoughts today. And thank you for joining us. If you're interested in more digital marketing, page design, and conversion rate optimization tips, please follow us on social media or visit instapage.com for more.